Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your colossal hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC. And when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we got you covered. We have reached the end of another season, so of course today it's time to pick our personal favorites from the series we reviewed to proclaim them the best of the season. But that is not the only big task on our hands today, because what better way to cap off a season than with the end of a significant chapter in one of the most prolific anime stories in recent years, Attack on Titan. So we'll discuss all the showstoppers from its gigantic third season today as well. But before all of that goodness, we'll quickly talk about the shows that didn't make the cut this time, right now in the Chop and Drop. Alright, here we are on the Chop and Drop, so let's quickly rattle off the shows from the sneak peek that didn't make the cut and that we decided not to review or not to stick with at all, not to watch. For one reason or another, for people who are wondering why we didn't do those. I think there are quite a couple, because, you know, there was so much to watch, at least for me, that I just dropped most of what didn't fully grab me after two or three episodes.
Yeah, same here. I had more drops than I was expecting.
Yeah, so the first thing that I checked out and immediately dropped was the Ultraman series on Netflix, which was pretty much for the same reason that I already stated in the sneak peek. You know, the reason why I thought I wouldn't keep on watching it. So, yeah, it's just bad CG. I tolerated it for a whole minute. And then I switched off. It looked like garbage to me. And, you know, the usual stuttery, low-frame CG that I don't like at all. And a whole series in that style. I don't need that, even if the series itself might be cool. I wanted to check out something Ultraman-related, but that this is not it, Chief, apparently.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, well, can't help it. John, what's a series that you dropped?
I decided to drop the Helpful Fox Senko-san.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, it seemed cute or whatever, but I got about 6 episodes in and I was just sort of like, where is the actual substance to this show?
Yeah.
So I just was like, okay, it's about this cute fox spirit who's helping out a worn-out office worker and his neighbor, and all right, I'm good, thanks.
It looked to me much like either it's going to be some kind of fan service fest or just, you know, a healing anime without much meat to it.
I mean, I would definitely file it under the category of wish fulfillment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it looked like.
And I mean, it's not necessarily bad, but it just didn't keep my interest. So, sometimes it happens, sometimes it don't. So, what do you got next?
Next, I have Fairy Gone, which was this show about like this alternate Earth, World War I/II-ish setting, where people have like these kind of stand or persona-ish beings that are called fairies and that they can summon. And it was an action show by PA Works, and it looked interesting just from the setup and setting. It was like, hey, by the author of Grimgar Fantasy and Ash, might be cool. But after like 3 episodes, like, no, this is kind of boring. Like all the characters and story beats felt kind of flat. And so did the visuals, actually, which was surprising to me, considering this is one of the things that PA Works usually excels in, if it's not the stories usually.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And the fairies also didn't look great, was also pretty stiff, sucky CG. So, yeah, like I said, setting was interesting enough, could have maybe kept me going, and even the characters might have gotten better, but it's like, okay, all this in combination just didn't seem interesting enough to keep going. It's gonna get a second season coming. It's got a second season coming up, actually, so yeah, maybe I'll see how this turns out, and then I'm gonna maybe get back into it if praises are sung, but yeah, not at the moment, not planning on that. What's another show you dropped, John?
I kind of pushed aside Robi Hachi.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, it started off, you know, kind of silly and fun, but after like 3 or 4 episodes, it seemed very one note. Like we had basically seen everything to expect out of it. I don't know if it changed later on. Maybe it did. Maybe it got better. But I was just like, I don't feel like sticking around to find out if there's any more to this than you're showing me on the surface, guys. Sorry. I don't
Yeah.
know about you.
Yeah, it seemed pretty. It was very light. I
Mm,
mean, I maybe expect. I don't really know if I expected more substance to it, but maybe at least something in regards to the characters. And this seemed like more of a slapstick, reference humor comedy fest with of our characters just experiencing crazy shit on every
which
new planet they visit, which is fine in itself, but it was,
if you can make it work.
yeah, sure. And it was colorful and everything, and there were some funny jokes in there that worked, but it just wasn't probably something I was looking for in this season. So,
I mean,
yeah,
I liked Sugita as a very flamboyant intergalactic loan shark.
yeah, sure. That was great stuff. Like I said, the first episode especially was pretty good, but after that it didn't really go anywhere that interesting for me, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I I guess I've seen from this show. I've seen what the show has to offer, and I guess that's not enough for me at the moment.
Hmm. So what you got next?
The next show I dropped, Midnight Occult Civil Servants, which,
Same.
yeah, this show about basically occult CSI with one of characters coming into this organization that basically handles the interactions between different mystical creatures in a normal human city, and the problem is none of them can really understand those creatures. The new guy turns out can, for certain things relating to his character and his history and everything, and he then acts like a mediator between the creatures and the bureau. Forgot what it was called. The
Yeah.
Occult Civil Servants Bureau. The MOCS, as maybe that's what it was called. But yeah, the cast was sympathetic. I really liked the characters. I thought, again, setting was interesting enough and everything. But again, show didn't go anywhere interesting quick enough. Like there was this thing between the main character and the first kind of villain, who's like this trickster puck person who's trying to play a kind of a game with the character, because they kind of have a history, not really, but I don't want to go into that right now. But it could have been turned into something interesting. But the other negative aspect of the show is it just looks like complete ass.
Yeah, Leiden Films was not able to pull it out on this one.
No, it looks so bad. It's so bad. Looks so low budget, and it's just that paired with the story not doing something interesting quick enough. I was like, okay, this seems all right, but not good enough to keep around for now. I'm sorry.
Mm.
Was it the
Oh
same for
well.
you?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it felt like there was potential there, but just the presentation was what did it for me eventually. And I hate being like that, because we've talked about other shows that haven't looked good and I've stuck with them, but I don't know, there's just something about this one that's just meh.
As these things happen, I cannot think of one show from the top of my head that looked like complete ass, and I still stuck around with.
I can think of two. Golden Kamuy in 91 Days.
Right, you're true. Well, 91 Days didn't look like complete ass all the way through, but
It
you're right.
had some pretty bad moments.
It did. It was rough in between. But yeah, Golden Kamuy is a good example, and of course, my total garbage trash tash shows that didn't look great. I mean, Killing Bites maybe is an example too, though I think this direction on that was the action direction on that was pretty strong, so it compensated for the lacking production values.
Hmm.
But there are some shows that, even if they don't look good, can make up for that in other departments.
Mm.
So, but Midnight Occult Civil Servants wasn't one of those.
Mm-mm.
You got another one?
After Lost.
Yeah, me too.
I had no idea what the fuck this show was about. Like, it got to a point where it's like, oh, I guess we're going to Lost. This girl has something to do with Lost. I got lost on the way trying to find the plot. I don't know. it seemed like this could have been something, but you kind of start to lose me when you say, "Hey, here's this show based on this mobile game." Oh
Mm.
yeah, oh yeah, really? Which is to say nothing of my own personal preferences because there's a show next season I want to check out that's based on a mobile game that I play, so I'm a giant fucking hypocrite. I,
Well, that's the difference, right? Because you played that, but you didn't play Afterlost, so.
which, we couldn't since it doesn't exist in English, but I don't
Yeah.
know if this was some big marketing ploy to gauge interest. I don't know. This show just seemed. I don't know how to concisely describe it. It just seemed very samey among, other shows of the sort of thing. Like, oh, part of the city has gone or has disappeared. We need to get to there to figure out the mystery. Things happen along the way. All right, okay. This is not really a good use of Madhouse's talents either.
Yeah, and I mean, from what I saw from the show, I think I watched like 2 episodes. The action was high paced and everything, but some of the visuals felt pretty janky,
Hmm.
regardless. Like, and pretty like everything about that show felt kind of rushed and slapped together. That's what I got from it. Like, was like, okay, we need. It's like it felt like. Do you remember these old that we don't really have anymore? These old, maybe slightly bigger budget movie tie-in games that were still super janky, even if they got big like marketing behind them and everything.
Hmm.
And this show felt like that to me. It's like, hey, we need an anime for this game now, and we'll put some money into it, but we don't have time to create something really good. So Madhouse rushed the shit out of this, and like in the first scene or one of the first scenes, you got like this area in Tokyo where you have this giant crosswalk, and the girl looking at this giant screen on the side of a building, and then there are the CG pedestrians in the background, and they walk into each other and get stuck on each other. And
I
I'm
don't
like,
remember that. Oh my God.
that stuck out to me because there was like these two CG pedestrians that just fucking humped each other because the collision detection was fucking off. It was like, okay, all right, I see where this is going.
Good show. You should watch it.
Yes. So yeah, I don't feel bad not sticking with the show. I
Mhm.
probably didn't miss too much. Maybe we'll get the mobile game eventually in English or something, and then I might check that out. But
remember
highly
looking up.
doubtful.
I remember looking up footage of the mobile game, and I was just like, "This does not look great."
Well, then nothing lost either way,
Exactly.
except for Afterlust. Anyway, you got another show because I'm
I
all
have
out.
I have one more.
Okay.
It was Cinderella 9.
All right. Yeah.
I I wanted to like this show because it seemed like it had a very positive overall theming to it about making friends, overcoming your own inner obstacles, like figuring out what you want to do with your life. It seemed like a very wholesome sort of sports anime. The production values weren't there though, and
Mm.
I by that I mean like TMS definitely put their resources into another show we're going to be talking about in our next season.
Mm.
But and I mean this show is fine because like I said, it's got a lot of upbeat and very happy emotions going for it, but it looks really rough, man. So I guess if you can get past that, it's fine. I just felt like dropping it. So oh well, these things happen, I guess.
I hadn't checked out that show, but to be honest, I don't mind that TMS put all the resources in the other show because I actually like, if not love, that show. So
Yes,
so
it
I'm
was
glad,
very good.
so I'm glad that was the one of the two that turned out really good production value wise.
I mean, this was also another adaptation of a mobile game, so
Yeah.
hey.
All right. Well, okay, so that's it for the shows that we didn't stick around with, but there's one more show for this season. Actually, for two seasons, or two cores at least, that we have to talk about. And it's a big one, guys. So we'll be right back. Okay. Once again, John, it's time for Titan. Yeah. So it's been a while since we talked about Attack on Titan. We reviewed the first and second season of Attack on Titan on our 33rd episode. That's a while ago.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. So if we want to check that out before we get into this, into the third season, maybe do that, because back then, which is also why we're going to talk a bit about the second season again in this, we didn't do full spoiler reviews yet. So that was pretty... I don't remember if we spoiled anything about the first season in that review. Maybe not, probably not, because we talked about the show in general for the first time, and I wanted to go spoiler-free. But since then, at least for our continued series review, as you should know, hopefully know by now, we're going to go full spoilers. So that entails all of Attack on Titan up to this point, up to the end of the third season. So be aware of that. But since I wanted to talk about some of the stuff that happened season 2 back when we watched that, I can do that now. We can do that now. So that's going to happen. Yeah. So the third season aired in fall 2018. Part 1 of that, and then part 2, in spring season this year. So we had a gap between that. I feel like initially it was planned that they would air just one behind another, but Studio Wit apparently wanted to put their all into this, and the production schedule was too harrowing, apparently. So I don't know if that was ever confirmed, but I have a feeling that was the reason why we got a split core for this.
I have a feeling that's probably why they might not be back for the final season, too.
Yeah, we'll see. We don't really have a confirmation for that either yet, so...
Yeah, it just sounds like that may be the case.
Yeah. We'll talk about that later. So let's first try... I don't want to make this like a story recap heavy thing, as I did with, for one reason or another, Karakuri Circus, for example, where I went to the whole plot.
We wanted to talk about everything that was bad about it.
Yes, but there is barely anything bad or even remotely unsatisfying in this season of Attack on Titan. So there's nothing really bad to talk about and not much nonsense to talk about. So we'll try to highlight like the basic, most important plot points, but we might also leave some developments out. Also, some of the stuff I might not be able to recall perfectly. Maybe John can help me out with that. But yeah, we're just I'm gonna pick these things that seem most important to me, and then we're gonna have like a loose discussion about the third season. What happened in that? And a lot of things happened in this third season. Like, holy shit. Like, Attack on Titan in the beginning, like the first season, I think the thing that was most criticized about it was its pacing. Then it was very slow. Like, after the initial burst of stuff, it like settled in a bit, and plot-wise, not that much stuff was happening. But starting from season 2 onwards, like, things started popping. And even more so in this third season, like especially in the second part, like all the big reveals that you were waiting for happened in all of them. All of them happened in that second part of the third season, which is ridiculous. And up to this point, Attack on Titan was more like, okay, we're gonna reveal like give you a few answers to a few minor questions, and then we're gonna, throw some new developments in there that cause other new questions to pop up. And that's how you keep the mystery box alive and everything, and keep people wondering and engaged. And, J.J. Abrams loves to do this shit as well, I think. And so does Isayama, the creator of Attack on Titan. So that's what happened. But pretty much by the end of the third season, we have answers to almost all of the big questions that were opening up in season 1. Like, where are the Titans coming from? Who are the Titans that attack this town? what is actually up with this world? Like, what is happening here? What's up with our main characters? What's up, with the country they live in? Everything. Like, all the big questions that were immediately popping up in the beginning of season 1, all of those get answered by the end of season 3. And in my opinion, pretty satisfyingly. How did you feel about that, John, in general?
I mean, I feel the same. To call both halves of season 3 a fucking whirlwind of excitement is a gross understatement. Although, I mean, I kind of lean towards the second half being a bit more exciting because, and we'll get to that. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting to get a lot of the answers we got so quickly, but I think Isayama had said as such way earlier on that yeah, I want to redo some of the pacing from the comic for the show, and because he was pretty directly involved with the production of the anime as well.
Yeah, especially for this third season.
Yeah, so the fact that he was able to be like, yeah, let's just cut all of this and get to the stuff that matters, I think really helped push this series as a whole beyond where it started. It's kind of like with if I could make a comparison with My Hero Academia, the first season is pretty glacial in its pacing, and after that it's just go 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 go.
First season of My Hero Academia, as much as I love it, felt like your standard Naruto pacing, where it's like a lot of characters talking in between, like in the battles and everything, and plot-wise not necessarily much happening and stuff like that. And since then, both of those shows have made big strides. But yeah, since we didn't get to talk about the big reveals in season 2, really, let's talk about those first, because there were some. So by the end of season 1, we already know that there are people who can turn into Titans, because Eren can do it. And then we later learned that any one of the people from his squad, what are they called? Not Record Corps.
Scout Corps?
Scout Corps, yes. From the Scout Corps, Annie, that she is one of the evil Titans, so to speak, who are special, not, those mindless, big, goofy things that just run around and eat people, but actually Titans who seem to have an agenda. And as we later found out, they're humans, so of course it makes sense that they have an agenda. So Annie is one of them, and there's this big climactic battle in the city, and they actually manage to beat Annie, but she does something. She uses a special technique where she encases herself in crystal, and they can't interrogate her or anything. So they don't really know yet who is involved and what is happening and everything. So at the beginning of season 2, we are introduced to a new thing, which is this Beast Titan thing, which basically looks like a giant ass ape. And it's gonna be a while, way into season 3, until we find out what that thing's deal is. But what we get filled into is who the Armor Titan and the Colossal Titan are, which are the first big sentient titans that we come across in the first season. Actually, they are the ones that destroy the walls of Shiganshina. Is that what this district is called?
Shinganshina, I believe.
Shinganshina, where Eren lives and everything, and his friends. And, they break in and let all the other smaller Titans in and everything. And we finally learn who those two are. They are Reiner and Berthold, 2 members, again, from the Scout Squad, from Eren's squad. And, yeah, they've been undercover, incognito, whatever. And their goal, apparently, was to, or at this point is, abduct Eren for one reason or another. And when they reveal that they are the Titans, we don't really know yet why they wanna bring Eren with them, because that's one of the things about Attack on Titan, and we talked about that already in our review for season 2. This show is very good at and loves to drop giant ass plot bombshells on our heads without much notice and much fanfare. Where it's like, hey, by the way, we are the fucking armor titan and the colossal titan.
It's the best because it practically happens off screen, and a couple of mutual friends of ours were showing me the original like pages from the manga where it happens, and it's done the exact same way. It's like they're just practically out of frame saying to Aaron, oh yeah, by the way, we're the armored and colossal titan. What?
Yeah, and Aaron is as flabbergasted and confused as we are at this point. He doesn't believe it. He's like, stop joking around, what the fuck's up with you? I mean, Bertolt also is, because Reiner apparently didn't really tell him about it, to just like jump Aaron with that information. But I can imagine if you were reading the manga at this point, you were like, maybe you can read manga pretty quickly, so you would just read over that text bubble and be like, wait, what? And I to be fair, starting from the point on where Aaron can turn into a titan, you are of course automatically assuming that the sentient titans are also controlled by humans or are humans. So you immediately start thinking, okay, who could the people be that we maybe already know that are the sentient titans? And then Annie turns out to be one, and she's from the scout squad. So you start thinking, okay, maybe there are other traitors in the squad as well. And I gotta say, Reiner was one of the very first ones I picked. It's like, and the reason is so stupid. It's because of the hair. I was just looking at the Armored Titan's hair, and I was looking at the cast. I was like, okay, it could be Reiner.
I didn't think of that, but you're right.
I mean, it's not 1-to-1, but it's close enough. And it's like, all right, Titan with blonde hair or white hair, with very short. And we got this one person who has kind of this buzz cut in a way, so maybe. And it turns out it actually was Reiner. I didn't guess Bertolt though, not at all. Maybe I should have, if I went back to the show and looked about who hung out with who, like who are the characters that stuck together the most, and were talking to each other the most, then maybe Annie, Bertolt, and Reiner would have been the ones that's like, oh, okay, yeah, that. If you know what you're looking for, that's pretty clear that those are the three, because they're always together. But I don't know if that actually was the case, or if they mingled more with other people to not arouse any suspicions or stuff like that. But yeah, it turns out those two are our other big titans, and then Aaron is, of course, not having any of that. It seems like he's confused by the reveal, but he seems to be a very good actor, and it's like he's playing this off. Yeah, you're just joking. And I think he immediately runs to Armin or Erwin or Levi or whoever, and it's like, those guys. I don't know. I think that's how it worked.
I mean, I just remember Mikasa just sort of glaring over her shoulder as she sort of like is barely out of earshot and hears their conversation. It's like, fuck did you just say?
And I mean, then we get this flashback sequence where we are filled in that actually the other scouts, like Aaron and Armin and and Erwin and some of the others already were suspecting that there are more traitors in this group, and they were already making plans that what they would do if those revealed themselves. So they already had a plan. It's just that Aaron at this point didn't really want to believe that it would be those two. And it's one of the coolest moments when he actually summons his Titan form after it's clear that Reiner and Bertolt are the ones. And the scouts are going to attack them now. And he's so angry. He's so like, I didn't want to believe it. Up to the last point, I wanted to believe that this is just, a joke, but now you leave me no other choice. Why did you do this? The moment where all of his last doubts are, moved from his mind. It's like, fuck, God damn it, you were my friends. I didn't want to believe this. I stood against all the people who were saying that we had more traits and everything. But, I'm no idiot. I know what I see when I see it. And that's what happens. And that was a cool character moment for Aaron, in my opinion. And yeah, then they fight, and Aaron actually wins against Reiner in kind of a cool wrestling match, I guess. Has some tricks learned from Annie, actually, that come in handy. The problem is Bertolt is still on top of the fucking giant wall, and then drops himself down. And of course, his giant ass colossal titan body just knocks Eren out, and he and Reiner and Eren can escape. And then the rest of the season is the other characters pursuing them. I think Ymir is also involved in that somehow. I think she's also, I don't know if she's one of the characters that gets abducted or if she just follows them, but it turns out she was also kind of part of the group. She also can turn into a Titan. And her relationship with Historia and everything, that becomes much more important in the second season. And Historia becomes much more important in the third one. The rest of the scouts follow those those 3 or 4 characters. And then there is another big battle after they leave this forest. And then it turns out Eren actually has a special power that can control Titans, apparently. Because the giant-ass greening Titan turns up that actually ate Eren's mom. We get to that thing later again. But that Titan turns up and is threatening Mikasa, if I remember correctly. I think Eren gets an arm ripped off too, and stuff like that in that battle. But yeah, and Eren manages to control other Titans and sick them on that grinning Titan. Joker-ass Titan. And yeah, at this point we learn, okay, that apparently probably was the reason why Reiner and Bertolt wanted Eren, because he has a special power that can control other Titans. And as we later find out, that power is called the Founding Titans power. Was that it?
I remember the name.
The Coordinator.
The coordinate being thrown around.
Yeah, Coordinate, right. So Eren is the coordinate, or has the power of the coordinate. And yeah, that's why they want him. And that's how we end season 2, basically, with this status quo. It's like Reiner and Bertolt fleeing and escaping, Ymir with them. Eren now being this person that needs to be protected at all costs, because apparently he's very important and special. Which, at this point you think, oh, this is a standard shonen plot. He was the special kid all along. Already, the thing that once he reappeared in season 1 was the special kid that gets in the mech or something like that. And actually, I was surprised to find out that the show kind of turns that a bit on its head later, especially in the 3rd season. And I welcomed that a lot. And we'll get to that. But the 3rd season, which we actually finally get to talk about now, starts off very differently. And that was also a point of, it wasn't a controversy or anything, but it was a point of contention, where it's okay, after that moment in season 2, apparently the next arc in the manga wasn't really about all the stuff we just learned. Or at least that's what I heard. It was okay, this is we're gonna have a big conspiracy thing next, which is much more political and much slower. And so a lot of people were saying, oh, okay, this what's coming up next. So probably the first or the entirety of season 3 is the weakest part of the manga up to this point. It was oh, okay, that's sad to hear, especially after all those big bombshells we just witnessed and everything. But apparently, like you already mentioned, Isayama went into this 3rd season and said, hey, I'm gonna quicken up the pace. I'm gonna change some stuff around. I'm gonna cut some things out. So this part of the story that didn't work quite as well in the manga, the pacing was really off in the manga, and it couldn't keep the thrills going. I'm gonna change that around a bit and improve that, and make this season better in that way. And I think he and Studio Wit pulled it off.
They managed to keep it interesting for the first half of what the first half of season 3, what it covered in the manga, and I don't feel like it really dragged or was wholly uninteresting or boring or anything.
No, not at all. And the interesting part already for me was that we start out pretty different in terms of the action, because for the first time in Attack on Titan up to this point, we actually move away a bit from the human on Titan battle, now get human on human in maneuver gear action. And you get these crazy ass aerial battles, which are fantastic. And there's a key moment in the first in the second episode of the third season, that gets like shown in every Sakuga highlight reel I've come across after this point, where Levi just fucking holy shit from rooftop to rooftop through the streets with his maneuver gear, like fucking Spider-Man. It's amazing.
It's so dope. Oh my god.
Yeah, the tracking shots are fucking amazing. Yeah. So it turns out there is a faction in the city that is trying to get, I think, Eren and Historia at this point. We don't really know that her name is Historia yet. My bad.
Oh, yes.
Krista. Yeah. Krista at this point. It's this kind of special government police thing, as we later learn, led by one Kenny Ackerman. And if that last name rings a bell, that is like, hey, Mikasa's last name is Ackerman. So what's going on here? And first we learned that Kenny and Levi are kind of related because Kenny was kind of a father figure to him. He's the one who brought up Levi after his mother died. But as it later turns out, he actually is his uncle. Took him in reluctantly after she died. Then after a while they parted ways. And they are not really fond of each other.
No.
That's Kenny is a crazy asshole. No doubts about it. He's like a fucking violent piece of shit. But his history with Levi is interesting, and it makes for a pretty potent like character dynamic when those two are on the screen. And that's where a lot of the focus is. Well, not a lot of the focus, but it's like
a fair chunk of it.
Yeah, fair chunk of it in the first half of season 3 are those two. I don't remember, how was Mikasa related to those two? Are she and Levi cousins in a way? Or I don't remember. I don't remember what her mother's role was, how she figured into the whole thing. She was part of the Ackerman family, which was one of the more important families up to a certain point in the city, as we later learn. Not anymore, apparently, but, it was one of the major, ruling families, but an important family. And I don't remember what line of the family she is belonged to. I think we learned that, but I don't remember it at this point. And it doesn't really play into the story. Like, I don't even think, maybe she gets filled into it, but I don't think she even gets told that she and Levi are related in a way. So
yeah, I mean, looking it up in real time right now, it just says that Kenny and Mikasa are related. I guess we don't know how, officially even. But
they're part of the same big family line apparently, but not. Like I said, it doesn't really come into play here. The important part is Levi's and Kenny's relationship, because they actually have history, and when they clash with each other, that's important, and that happens a lot. Eren actually gets abducted again, which became a meme at that point, and Krista too. And then we learn over the course of many episodes. This is one of the bigger plot reveals, I guess, that the city where they live is not actually ruled by the king, as everyone thought, but by this one very prominent family that more acts in the background and just put an actor, whatever guy on the throne. Wasn't Fritz's name right? King Fritz.
Yeah.
As a figurehead, as a patsy, to control things in the background. And the guy, the main head of the family at this point, Rod Rice, is actually Krista's father, and wants her for a very specific purpose. And that is all actually linked to the Titans, because as we learn, the power that Eren got with the coordinated and everything, and the power to control Titans, and as we also find out, to erase memories and everything, came from their family, which is the family of the true king, and also apparently the king of the Titans, and was handed from family member to family member by, the previous king being consumed by the new one, basically. That's what happens. And that's how they transferred the power to keep everything in the city in order, to keep a history they built, a history they created, to keep the people in line and to keep everyone safe in the walls. That was the reason. To not start another war. Those are the reasons we're given at this point. We don't really know what that means yet. We don't really know why they're actually doing this, why they erase the people, why they erased the memories of the people in the city, why they're trying to keep everyone controlled and docile and everything. But that's the reason why they're after Eren, because he has this power now, and they need this power back to keep all this shit up. And so they need, because Eren is not a true heir, he doesn't have the rice blood and everything. He doesn't have the blood of the true king. He can't really control it, apparently, that well, or at least not at this point. And so they want to get him back and transfer his power to Krista, or her real name is Historia, as we learned, because she is actually the youngest heir to the throne, so to speak, the rightful heir, quote unquote. And if she would take over Eren's powers and everything by consuming him, that would play into what Rice, her asshole father, he's a real asshole, slimy piece of shit, actually wants. And yeah, we also get a few, at least two other interesting, important plot revelations at this point. And that is that there is this substance, this fluid that actually turns people into Titans by, injecting them with it. And they become mindless Titans first, but if they then consume a Titan that was a sentient Titan, or a human that is a sentient Titan, then they actually get this power and become sentient then as well. And that's what happened to Eren, because his father, Grisha, actually was the one who stole the power from the Rice family. He already had Titan powers, and we get to that, how that happened, because that gets revealed much later in season 3. But he had already Titan powers, and the Titan powers of that big boxing Titan that Eren later becomes. But he consumed the previous head of the Rice family and got this coordinate power to control everything. And then decided to transfer to Eren, and basically injected his son with the fucking fluid and made him eat him. And we get to his motives later, but holy shit.
Yeah.
It was a pretty fucked up. I mean, the whole show is fucked up, has a lot of fucked up developments, but that was one of those moments where it's like, holy fucking shit. He made his own son eat him. All right. Okay. Poor Eren. Well, yeah, that's what happens. And then we got Eren abducted. We got Rod trying to convince his daughter, Historia, to eat Eren and bring all this power back to their family and everything. And he doesn't give a shit about her. He just wants to control her and to be the one who is in power and everything. Up to a certain point, you get the feeling maybe he will convince Historia that this is the right choice, not for the people, but for all people in the city and everything, to keep everything as it is, that is more safe. But then she fucking slaps the vial out of his hands that he wants to inject her with. Is one of the best fucking moments in the whole show, really.
Shit, that scene was so good.
Yeah. That's just this turnaround moment for Historia. We've spent some time with her. We've met her, as this very demure, very flustered, not very self-confident, small person who was very much relying on Ymir to guide her. And they have, it's hinted at that they're kind of lovers, or at least Ymir loves her, in a romantic way. And it seems like Krista / Historia feels the same about her, and they relied on each other, and Ymir was always protecting her, and Historia didn't really know where she belongs and everything. She doesn't really remember much about her past. And now she's filled into all of that, and you might think that, hey, she's a very fragile person with a troubled history and everything. She might actually jump for this. But no.
She says, fuck you, Dad.
Fuck you, Dad. Fuck you. And it's Such a great moment. Really, this whole season is Historia's season to a certain point. Like not the whole season, but the first part of the season. Like she has all the kick-ass moments, besides Levi, of course, who, as usual, has all the mega kick-ass moments in this fucking show. But she gets to smack that damn vial out of her asshole father's hand. Then she punches the fucking emo out of Aaron, who is at this point realizing that he is not the destined child, and, you know, gets filled in by the shit that his father did and everything. He just fucking collapses and is like bawling, and he's like, I don't know what to do, fuck, just all the people killed and everything, it's all my fault, blah, and I'm not special, and just fucking end it and everything. And she just fucking smacks him in the head. It's just fucking pull yourself together, man. If I can do it, you can do it, and we can make a better future and everything. And that's also a fucking awesome moment. And then later, which is pretty much what happens immediately after this, there's some kerfuffle, the scouts fighting Kenny's soldiers and everything. That's all happens on the side. It's not that important. It's just like, you know, to keep the other characters busy and make things more exciting. But what happens after she smacks that vial out of her father's hand, he actually drinks from that fluid and turns into a giant ass abnormal titan himself, the grossest one in this show, which is basically this giant ass worm that is not powerful to stand and just crawls over the land with its head in the ground, which is
shears its own face off.
Which is at the point where it stands up at the walls of the city. It's only like this fucking half a face with the eyes and the tongue just fucking falling out and everything, and just oozing liquids, flesh and blood, and it's disgusting. And Historia gets to kill her father, gets to fucking cut his nape out, you know, the weak point of the Titans, and kill him in front of the whole city, which immediately legitimizes her as the true heir to the throne once she reveals that she is actually from the line of the king. And man, what a kick-ass character arc.
It's so good.
Especially if you consider where she started off from. This is like, and you know, she's one of the minor characters in the beginning. You don't pay much attention to her. She's one of the scouts, and you pick her like one of the characters that is like, yeah, she's cute and everything, and you care for her because she's part of the scouts and everything. But you're pretty sure that she is gonna be like eaten in one of those heart-wrenching moments where it's just, another one of the scouts is gonna die. But no, at least up to that point, she becomes one of the most kick-ass characters in this show. And it's great. It's fantastic. It's so well written. It's such a great character arc. And you don't see it coming. You don't see it coming in the beginning. It's one of the biggest and best surprises in the show, and one of the best character developments and the best developed characters in the show.
Mm.
And I think there's also this great scene right before her coronation where she just fucking punches, I don't know if it's Erwin or Levi, one, you know, not really, but, you know, just pulls herself together, is like, and punches him in the chest or something with a kind of a weak punch, but still, I think that's what happens. And it's just like this great moment, because none of them would have dared to do that before, especially not her. And it's great. It's, in general, everything with her in season 3 is fantastic. Yeah, was super happy with that. And it seems like you were as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. Man, everything, like this part of the story was definitely Levi and Historia's, like you said, and they really pulled it together for both of them in like just really meaningful and exciting ways. And you know, especially after hearing, you know, this part of the story is going to be sort of, and then we got it, and it was like, no, they did it the right way.
Yeah, it turned out great. I mean, Kenny is still one. It's not like you at the end of the battle and he dies. You don't really feel sorry for him because he's a piece of shit. Yeah. But you feel where you can understand where he's coming from, and it's like, okay, I get it. Well, in the very beginning, you get the feeling like, oh no, this is gonna be this super asshole character that's gonna stick around forever and it's gonna annoy us. And no, he gets dispatched rather quickly and satisfyingly. Like, again, like the battle in the cave between the scouts, the top of the scouts, and his man is great, and there's some kick-ass moments in there, and his battle with Levi and everything. Well, that's great too, and it's also interesting because the his soldiers actually use guns. They don't. Or not only swords. I think they might use swords as well, or are they only using guns? I think they're only using guns.
As far as I recall, they only had guns, and that made those encounters a lot more interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, that was really shocking in the beginning because, guns are a thing in this universe, but not like these super mobile handguns, which they have. The guns are also basically powered by the same way their maneuver gear is powered.
Yeah, they shoot more
pressurized air.
Yeah, they shoot more like slugs as opposed to like bullets or like cartridges. They're kind of shotguns, but not quite.
Yeah, it's like this super powered air gun basically.
Yeah,
like I said, air pressure, like the maneuver. That's how the maneuver gear works. That's how the grappling hooks for the maneuver gear are shot out, and I think that's the same principle behind those guns.
Yeah.
And in the first episode when they suddenly attack, it's like a big shock. What the fuck is that? What guns? What is happening? And yeah, it's great stuff. Action wise, come on. What can you say about Attack on Titan in regards to its action choreography and action animation, direction, everything? It's fucking perfect. Like
it's on point. It's always on point.
Yeah, you can see like this show is fucking. There's so much work put into this show, especially in the action scene. It's like, goddamn, how they're gonna keep this up if they're gonna go for 24 episodes again, and especially considering what's coming in the second part of the third season. Because if you thought the first part of the third season was action heavy, holy shit. So at this point, let's recap what we know. We know that we know who. How the Titans are created at this point. We know that there was this conspiracy to keep everything about the Titans under wraps and keep people, in the city and in the walls and everything. We don't really know yet why, but we know where Aaron's power is coming from, basically. And, who are the people pulling the strings in the background and why the military was so, hush-hush with certain things and everything. This is basically, the military staged a coup to take over from the king, and now Historia is placed on the throne as the new heir, working together with the military and everything. So everything in the city is kind of in order again. So the next plan, which is already established at the end of the first part of season 3, is like, okay, the guy who seems to know most about this, and the guy who kicked a lot of this into motion is Aaron's father, Grisha. So, and we know, I don't know how they learned this, if it is through Irvin or through someone else, or Aaron tells them, I don't know. But they know that there is this basement in Aaron's house that probably has all of Grisha's research and his journals and everything. And since he seems to know a lot and was a Titan too, apparently, they feel like if they want to get all the answers, know all the secrets, they have to get there. The problem is that part of the city is still overrun with Titans. And Bertolt and Reiner and the Beast Titan, who we have seen not that much of, but we already know and they know, are still out there and are still after Aaron. So they know they need Aaron, but the scouts also need Aaron because their plan is to close off the wall of Shiganshina where the Titans came in, because Aaron also learned to use the same power that Annie used to put herself into a hardened crystal, and Aaron now has learned to use that power as well. They want to use that to close off the wall and make that city safe again, dispatch off all the small Titans in there, and then get to the basement. But they know if they go there, they might encounter the other party out there that is still after Aaron. So what they hearken is this is gonna end up as a big showdown, because if they wait somewhere, if there's a good place for an ambush, it's in Shiganshina. Because if Bertolt and Reiner and and everyone else, whatever, who might or might not be in the opposing forces, arrives there first, they can hide, they can make plans, and they can ambush them. So they know this is going to be probably the climactic final battle for the survival of humanity, whatever. And we're going to get back our city, we're going to get all the secrets. And basically, they muster all the fucking remaining forces of the Scout Corps, of some other corps, I think. Everything, every man they have left, they put on a fucking horse and sent it towards Shiganshina. And that's basically all of what season 3 part 2 is. It's a giant battle in Shiganshina.
It is. I wasn't sure exactly what to expect going to this one because it was like, oh, well, the majority of this is going to be set in like one location. So, don't know how much they're going to do with that. They did a whole fucking lot with that.
Yeah. Holy shit.
I mean, hell, we even got a teaser for something super important, like during the credits at the end of part 1.
Yeah.
That was, oh man, even that. Ugh.
Yeah, definitely. There was, Titans is not afraid, I would say, to give certain things away early on, be it in teasers for next seasons or be it in fucking OPs, because in every major OP there was a major giveaway for a major plot development in the show. Like, I think the second OP spoilered kind of pretty openly who the female Titan is, that it's Annie. And
I don't remember that. I'd have to go back and rewatch that OP.
Well, it's not like you see her turn into it, but you see her face, and then become Shadow, and then the female Titan face in later scene. And it's like, all right, it's her.
I imagine they would do it with a little more subtlety. I would just have to go back and look at it again to remember.
It's still relatively subtle considering how the show, acts sometimes otherwise, but
you're not wrong.
Right? I mean, that's why the show also worked so great. There's a lot of people screaming, but it's a lot of fun. It's very loud. Attack on Titan is a very loud show.
Mm-hmm.
But that happens in that OP, which I didn't notice the first time as well. I didn't pay that much attention to the OP, I gotta say. But after rewatching the second half of the first season, I was like, okay, yeah, it's pretty obvious if you know what you're looking for. And apparently the ending, the ED to the second season, also had a lot of major major spoilers that you couldn't recognize if you didn't know what's gonna get revealed at the end of season 3. But going back to it, holy shit, it's basically like the whole history of the Titans in that fucking second ED. It's ridiculous. It's like the whole fairy tale thing that they, the history of the aliens and everything. It's all there. You just can't make any sense of it because it looks like fucking fairy tale book what you're looking at. Because you haven't filled in on some crucial plot details yet that would help you make sense of it. But it's like that was definitely in there for the manga readers, where it's like, yeah, you know what's coming. Those guys have no idea. The anime only watchers like us.
Yeah. Whoops.
Yeah. But we already the OP, which is fantastic for the second part of the third season that aired in spring, already has a thing that has so many things in there that later get revealed, like the fucking thunder spears, what's gonna happen in the battle of the city, the one of the most amazing moments in the show and definitely in the first episode of part 2 of season 3 is where they arrive in in Shiganshina and they're like, okay, no one seems to be here. What's happening? Okay, let's check everything. They find these cups with coffee in them. Also, a very interesting small bit. Our main characters don't seem to know what coffee is.
Yeah,
they say it's like, oh, it's this black fluid and everything. It smells kind of pretty good and everything. It's like, wait, they don't know what coffee is, but apparently Reiner and Bertolt and everyone else do. So, okay, what's happening here? There's a more advanced civilization somewhere outside, maybe.
And it's weird because I didn't give that much thought at first until you and others pointed it out, and I was like, oh, wait, you're right.
There's another bit too. I got to that later, but with the Beast Titan that clues you in again on later developments. But yeah, that's when like they arrive, they find the cops, and they're like, okay, they're here. Watch out, they're somewhere in this city. Reiner and Bertolt are somewhere in this city, and we need to find them. Otherwise, they're gonna ambush us, and Aaron's gonna be captured, and shit's gonna go shitty. So this is the moment where Armin is put in the spotlight, because we've already over the course of the previous seasons we know that he is a very clever kid and that he can make great plans and everything. And he's like, no, wait, I think because they can't find him, they can't find Reiner and Bertolt, they don't know where to look really. And we have learned at this point that the walls of the whole city are actually made out of crystallized titans. Those are the foundation for the city walls. Armin thinks about that at some point, and then it's like, wait, if the walls are hollow in a way and titans can hide in there, like in a crystallized form, maybe Reiner and Bertolt can hide in there as well. That's what happens. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those kick-ass moments where one of the poor scouts, throwaway character who finds there, he's like, they knock against the wall with the hills of their swords, and then suddenly, oh wait, this noise isn't right, and then just Reiner, Reiner throws away the camouflage and just stabs the poor dude. And yeah, then fucking giant battle breaks out. One of the kick-ass moment where Levi just fucking dashes from the top of the wall and just immediately impales Reiner through the fucking neck.
Oh yeah!
No time wasted. That's such a fucking Levi moment. It's like, holy fucking shit! You just see his fucking eyes flash, and he immediately, in this super fluid animation, just flies into the screen and fucking impales Reiner. But sadly, it's not enough. Reiner can still transform, and outside, we see a giant transformation flash. We at this point can recognize the transformation effect, and the Beast Titan appears with a bunch of other smaller titans, and they got the city surrounded. So our scouts got ambushed after all.
Man, the whole beginning of this segment was just like, how much worse can shit get? Oh, yeah, that much worse. It just keeps going. It just gets more and more bad as it goes along.
And like I said, the OP already gave that part away. But it's still such an amazing scene. It's like it goes from 1 to 11 in 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, you're completely fucked. It's like, holy shit. Enemy forces outside around everywhere. And the the other two Sentient Titans are in the city. So what the fuck are you gonna do? And yeah, then this giant battle ensues. The Beast Titan throws fucking rocks at the scouts outside to kill them and their horses. And inside, Reiner just basically picks a fight with Eren. And a lot of things are happening in that battle. I can't recount all of them, but what it amounts to is basically Reiner being taken down by a new weapon the scouts develop, which are the Thunder Spears, which are basically fucking bazookas on hills. They're just basically giant exploding spears that they shoot out. That look like rockets, really. And he gets taken out, not completely, but enough that Bertolt, who has been hiding himself to get a more favorable position to actually abduct Eren, has to jump into action, transforms into the Colossal Titan. And outside, there's still all the shit going down, and Erwin actually doing the suicide run with the rest of the scout cavalry, and Levi doing this kick-ass thing where he jumps from small titan to get to the Beast Titan, to get behind him and take him out. And that is their plan. Inside, Eren is supposed to take out the Colossal Titan, and outside, Levi is to take out the Beast Titan, while Erwin and the rest of the cavalry are fucking sacrificed, which is harrowing. A lot of bad shit is happening here, and feel sorry for a lot of the characters. And of course, it doesn't go as planned. Because outside, Levi manages to kind of pull off his plan almost perfectly, and it's such a fucking amazing scene. It's so satisfying. Like how he tears into the fucking Beast Titan and just pulls him out of there, but shit goes wrong. The Beast Titan, or the guy inside the Beast Titan, whose name is Zeke, as we learn, actually manages to slip away, and Levi has to chase him. And inside, Eren is no match against Berthold, because Berthold is a fucking monster. He's the colossal titan. He can emit this giant gust of hot steam, so no one can get near him. None of the scouts can get near him with their maneuver gear, because he's blowing their grappling hooks away. And yeah, he is on his way to like tear down the wall or snatch Eren. I don't remember what it comes down to, but he's unstoppable. And then we get this moment where Armin and Eren make a plan, and it looks like Armin is going to sacrifice himself to make that work. And it's really harsh, because Armin is one of the best characters in this show at this point, and one of the most beloved one. He's from the main characters, and the show has not been shy about killing characters that seem important at this point, and it feels like, okay, this is gonna be the moment of the show where they axe the first main character. Like, Armin is gonna die, and he gets burned to a crisp, really. And it's just a really emotional scene, and we get flashbacks to how he and Eren became friends, and everything, and how that trio of main characters became the best friends. And it's like, holy shit, this is hard to watch. This is hard stuff.
It's well, they have to make a hell of a decision after that.
Yeah, but you know, I felt like the show made me believe that they would actually kill off Armin at this point. Did you fall for that too?
I really did. Oh.
And it wouldn't have worked if if it hadn't laid the groundwork for that up to this point, with a lot of characters that you would peg as main characters or as important characters being super disposable. So the show has earned this fake out, because Armin is gonna live. But at this point, you are willing to believe that they're gonna kill him off, because it's an incredibly well staged moment. It's super believable. You get the flashbacks, which is always a dead giveaway and a death flag to the character's youth and everything, and their origin with the friendship with Eren and Mikasa. It's a tearful goodbye and everything. The plan was for Eren to making a copy of his body with this hardened crystal, which couldn't be seen in all the smoke. Mm-hmm. So Berthold believed, because he was paying attention to Armin, he was distracting him. Otherwise, this couldn't have worked. So Eren left that crystallized form, which made it look that he was still on the ground, knocked out as a Titan. Actually, he was moving as a human behind Berthold. And when Berthold, let his defenses down, he cut him out of his Titan body. So the Colossal Titan is taken out. Reiner is taken out by the rest of the scouts with their thunder spears. So the only thing we got left, uncertainty factor, is Zeke. I don't know really how events really progress from this point in real time, like what happens next really. But Zeke manages to snatch Reiner from the other scouts at some point and get away. And Levi still got one of the vials that turns people into Titans, which was actually their plan along to turn. Once they had Reiner and Berthold, they wanted to turn one of the other main characters into a Titan, consume one of them, and gain their powers to strengthen their forces. So that's what they're gonna do now. And they got two perfect voluntaries at this point, which is Armin, because as it turns out, he, for some reason, even though he is like a fucking burned gray mummy, is still alive, at least for a few moments. And the other one is Erwin, because he survived the suicide run. And now they have to make a decision. Are they gonna let Erwin survive, the leader of the scouts who took them to this point and who made all of this happen? Or is it gonna be Armin, who is still very young and very inexperienced, and who got potential, but what are they gonna do? And of course, Eren and Mikasa already made their decision, but Levi is like, Eren is kind of his mentor, his best friend, his his commander, he owes everything to Erwin, really. He pulled him out of, as detailed in the OVA, in one of the OVAs. Erwin is the one who pulled him out of the slums and everything in the city, and got him into the core and gave him his purpose. And yeah, so Levi has the vial, and he has to decide. Eren and Mikasa get restrained. They don't get to decide because, of course, they're emotional and they want to revive their friend naturally. And Levi has to make the decision. And this is, at this point, I wasn't believing that he would pick Erwin. I wouldn't believe that's how the story would go, because Erwin's chapter is finished. Yeah. Because he already was like in the beginning, before they did the suicide run, he was already like contemplating all the sins that he was responsible for, because he almost couldn't live with himself anymore, sending so many young soldiers into their death. Like not even like this suicide run, but even before that weighed heavily on his conscience. And he knows that it was all in the service of getting the answers that his father was the one who told him that there are secrets in the city, and that the history is wrong and everything, or at least his teacher. I think his father was his teacher, whatever. So that's why that was Erwin's motive behind doing all of this. He wanted to get to the basement and learn the true history of this world, and to uncover all the secrets. So that was his goal, his motivation to create a better life, a better world, and to reveal the history of this world. And the bodies he stepped on and over to achieve this goal weighed heavily on his conscience at this point. He says himself that to beat the devil, you have to become a devil, and I am that devil, right? He considers himself a bad person, a devil. He's so fucking fractured and damaged at this point, and Levi recognized that. And that's why he decides to revive Armin and not his friend. And I feel really sorry for Levi, because despite him being an asshole in a lot of situations, especially in the beginning of the show, he's also one of the coolest characters, bar none. Not only in this show, but in anime in general. Just in terms of sheer kick-assery. And
I mean, they show him to have, pretty good judgment most of the time, so...
Yes. But, you can understand, he always he controls himself very much, but when he lets loose, that there are a lot of emotions bottled up inside him. And, this is one of those moments where you think, are his emotions gonna take over? Or is he... Because Eren says, like, no, Armin made all of these plans. Without him, we couldn't have even we didn't have a chance in this battle. He was the one who found... Berthold and Reiner. He was the one who helped me beat Berthold. He has a good brain. He can be the next Erwin. He can be the next generation. He can be the one that we can rest all our hopes on. But will Levi actually listen to that, or will this be the moment where his emotions, for one of the few times, take over, and because he wants to revive his friend as well?
Man, and this is the scene. This is the scene that they tease at the end of part 1, and you don't know what it is outside of the context. And then you get to this, and it's like the decision you have to. And also, can I just say, fuck Floke?
Yeah,
he's such a shithead.
He's a shithead, but you also can understand where he is coming from, because he makes a good point later in the show. Once after they get Once after all this is done, everything is transformed into a Titan, consumes Berthold, and wow, holy shit. Harsh scene, but earned. Like, what do you expect? That is a comeuppance. I mean, Reiner and Berthold have some understandable motives as well, as we later learn, but still, he had it coming. And yeah, that's what happens, and now both Armin and Eren have Titan powers. And they go back to the city and are celebrated as heroes, naturally, because they got Shiganshina back. All the people can go back to their homes now and everything. And yeah, the two the biggest foes that we have, or two of the biggest foes that we have come across at this point, are beaten as well. The Armored Titan, or, well, Reiner's still alive, but he got severely beaten and injured.
He got kind of taken away by the cart Titan, as it were.
Yeah, it's weird-ass Titan with his fucking weird Looks like a cart on legs, basically.
Almost like with a duckbill shaped mouth.
Yeah. Who can talk?
Yeah,
Sounds like a walkie-talkie. Super weird.
yeah, because
But
there's a scene there that we kind of glossed over where Hanji is about to kill Reiner.
yeah, because they only need one Titan. They only got one vial anyway, so why keep him alive, right?
Yeah, because
and Bertolt is the stronger one.
he hands Hanji a letter from Ymir, and they're about to go fetch the Titan serum from Levi so that they can use him instead of Berthold. But then the card Titan and Zeke come around and be like, "Whoop! I'm taking this guy. See you later. Bye."
Yeah. And Hanji is really angry with herself. Like fuck. This was my fault. But you got to keep some big hitters for the last arc, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you killed Reiner off your 2, you only got Zeke left. Well, okay. We'll get to that. But from the things we know, so that might have not been enough. So it's maybe good that they keep Reiner alive as a factor. But yeah, they get back, they get celebrated as heroes and everything. But Floke brings up a good point, which is also one of the themes, in the show, which we'll talk about later. But which is like, hey, Erwin should have been the one who kept alive. He should have kept on living with his guilt, because he said, all of you assholes sent us into a situation that you knew what would happen. We didn't know. We got lured in by all the bravado, by all the propaganda, by all the high fly military is the best thing, and you can do something for your country shit. And we didn't know what awaited us because we're just fucking kids. And you used us. You didn't tell us the whole truth. You didn't tell us that you knew we were riding into our deaths, and you didn't tell us about it. He makes a very good argument here. And that's, I mean, you know that it had to play out this way to give humanity a chance, but it's still kind of shitty that they didn't, in the beginning, tell the other soldiers about this, because they knew a lot of them would maybe desert or not go along with it. Understandably so. Mm-hmm. It's the government, it's the military just using their recruits as cannon fodder, and that's a shitty thing. That's a shitty thing that happens in real life, has happened in real life everywhere. He comes across like a selfish asshole, because this also feels like something he wants to do to feel better about the whole situation, but it's very understandable in my opinion.
He just seems to open his mouth at the worst times, again later on as well.
Yeah, sure, definitely. The problem is he opens his mouth to the wrong people.
Yeah, that's probably, yeah.
He's angry because those are the people that are there. He's angry at the wrong people because, those are also, the people who have experienced the same shit as he does and have not been told the whole truth, but they decided to do something about it regardless, which you can't expect from everyone. You really can't. You can't expect to just everyone to sacrifice themselves for their country and everything, or whatever, or the ideals of other people. You can't do that. You're not entitled to that. And Eren and Armin and Mikasa made certain decisions because of what their ideals are and what their goals are in life and everything. And, they have this distant thing where it's like, hey, we want a life outside the wall. You've heard about that there's a thing called the sea, like a giant pool of water that we want to get to, that we want to see. That was one of the first promises they made as kids. And then you got all the other characters factoring into that, and with Erwin and the government naturally. But you can also understand a Floke's point of view, in my opinion. It's like, hey, I got roped into this under false pretenses, and I wouldn't have gone along with this regardless of how it might turn out. And yeah, if he weren't around, maybe some things would have went differently, though not really, because at this point they didn't even have to decide between Erwin and Armin. It would have just been Armin, because he's the one who brought Erwin into the fucking city after that suicide run. So he didn't really much factor into the equation. so he maybe could have just stayed home. But you don't know. You really don't know. But still, that doesn't invalidate his point of, you should have told us the truth. You should have told us the truth and let us make our own decisions instead of lying to us and just sending us in our deaths that because we didn't know what was coming for us. You did. So I understand him. Like you said, not necessarily the best moments to bring that up, and not necessarily the right people to bring that up to. He should have like complained to the higher ups in the military and everything, because those are the people who made those decisions. And I mean, Erwin, the guy who basically made that decision, is already dead. So,
Like, I mean, if the story didn't center around like Aaron, Mikasa, Armin, and you know all of them, if it centered more around the rest of the scouts, yeah, okay, maybe would have been able to get on his level, but otherwise it's sort of like, dude, you got to learn to shut up around everyone else like that.
maybe. But like I said, I can understand why he's angry about the whole thing.
Yeah.
He's not super sympathetic about it, but it's like, okay, yeah, I get where you're coming from. I totally understand it. Might have seen it your way too. I might not be as loud about it, but yeah, I understand where you're coming from. So, and I think the show does a rather good job at portraying like the different perspectives on this whole part of the story, and they're all understandable and relatable, in my opinion. And all that happens after, basically, in this last part of the show, we learn the whole truth about where the Titans are coming from. And it's a bagger.
Yeah, it is. Oh.
I mean, you know, like I said, you had some suspicions, like the coffee thing I mentioned earlier, some other things, that there is definitely a faction outside of the walls that is doing all that shit. I mean, Reiner and Bertolt and Annie had to have come from somewhere. We don't really know what that other faction is. We saw some flashbacks of Ymir that already alluded to all of this shit. And we know that for some reason, the Rise family tried to keep all of the real history secret. So there's got to be something that relates to that outside as well. And there was, I teased that earlier, but I didn't mention it yet. There's a moment where the Beast Titan does this wind-up baseball thing and throws the rocks to kill all the scouts with the horses and everything. And she says something about hitting a home run.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, okay, all right. So like, there is baseball somewhere in this universe.
It's so weird because we're like, yeah, we know what that is. Wait, no one else knows what that is.
So there were a lot of kind of dead giveaways that there is a different civilization, human settlement, whatever, outside of this big centerpiece city that we have spent most of our time in. Yeah, and it turns out Grisha and Reiner and Bertolt too, and Annie and whatever, is from a city called
Marley.
Marley. A country called Marley, not a city. Which is basically the city that we spent most of our time in, turns out, is not really in the middle, but on this giant island. I think the guys from Marley call it Paradise or something. Or Paradise Island or whatever. Right. So Marley, on the other hand, is on the continent. And it's a much more advanced civilization. It's basically on the level of early 20th century, I would say. They got blimps. I don't know. Do they have cars? I don't remember. Maybe.
Probably, to be honest.
Yeah, but it looks like pre-World War II, maybe, society. And yeah, that comes into play as well. So it turns out that civilization had a big war with the people who control the Titans' powers, who are called aliens. And the Titans lost the war. I don't remember really how that happened, because I can't imagine. And are now oppressed people, basically. They live among Marley, or some of them did, but they are treated like, well, let's not talk around this anymore. They are treated like Jews in World War II. Basically, they are kept in segregated parts of the town. They have to wear these armbands that basically look like the armbands that Jews had to wear in Germany during World War II and everything. And yeah, they are treated like garbage and have to follow certain rules, otherwise they get just killed. And that's what happens to Grisha's sister, because they went outside their restrictive area to look at, I don't know what they want to look at. Was it a blimp or something?
Yeah, they were watching like a blimp or an airship land.
Yeah, right. And they get picked up by security agents from Marley. And then later in the day, Grisha's sister gets killed, probably by the agents, as it later turns out. And his parents are like, they keep quiet because they're afraid that their whole family is going to be killed if they speak up, oppressed people. Yeah, but Grisha won't have it. This is all in the past, of course, right? When he was a young boy. And he gets contacted actually by a resistance movement that wants to establish and I don't know if they want to take over Marley or just want what's theirs, like reveal the true history of the aliens, which turns out they weren't really the bad guys in that war, or at least that's what it says. It was much more complicated than that, and the people of Marley changed the whole story. So yeah, he falls into line with them, meets his wife, and they have a son, and that son is named Zeke. So it turns out Zeke is Aaron's brother. Zeke is not as thrilled with the whole idea once he's old enough that is about, bringing back the alien, getting the aliens their glory and their rightful place and their rightful history back, because he's more probably more indoctrinated and into the Marley propaganda system than Grisha was, and actually rats his parents out. And they get captured by the security forces and get shipped off to the walls that kind of seal off the island, Paradise Island, to the rest of the world. Where apparently the king of the Titans, after losing the war between the aliens and Marley, retreated to and decided to wall himself in. And decided to erase the history of his people, so there wouldn't be a war anymore. And that's the reason for the whole Rice family thing, all the thing that got revealed in the first part of season 1. It's like, okay, why do we not remember our history? It's because the king of the Titans decided that he didn't want another war and wanted the rest of his people to live in peace here in these walls. The problem is Marley doesn't really see it that way, apparently.
Yeah.
And because after all, they sent Reiner and Zeke and whatever and everyone else to get Aaron's powers because they want the Titan powers for themselves. They want the power of the Coordinate to control all other Titans. And I don't know if their end goal is to eradicate all of the Titans on Paradise Island. Was it for resources? Maybe.
I don't clearly
another subtle theme, or just if they wanted to, destroy them in general or control them, use them as weapons of war, whatever. It was one of those two. Either use them as weapons of war with other countries. I think they were on the brink to go to war with another country, and that's why they want to use Titans, and also needed the resources on Paradise Island, and that's why they wanted to get Aaron and wanted to use his power to control the Titans as weapons to win the war, and at the same time, hit two birds with one stone. Also be able to just take over Paradise Island, which at this point they might not be able to if they don't have the power of the Titans in their hands. So yeah, that's their goal. And back in the flashback with Grisha and everything, we see that he and his wife got brought to that wall outside of Paradise Island, and we're on the brink of being turned with a few other people from the Resistance into Titans. And then we see some familiar faces because the Titan, the grinning Titan that actually ate Aaron's mother, Grisha's second wife, is, I forgot what was her name.
Dinah.
Dinah is Dinah, his first wife, and the mother of Zeke. And it was also one of those fucking what the fuck moment where it's like you see flash of transforming and it's just her fucking just pushing her face towards the sky, and you see that oh so familiar face of the grinning Titan, and it's like, holy fucking shit, it's all connected. Everything is. It's one of those moments where like you get a payoff for something that you didn't even think about anymore. It's like, no. That also comes into play here, and it's related again. It's like, fuck, Isayama, you mad genius. It's really good stuff. It's like, again, one of those my heart stopped for a beat there moments. It's like, oh my god, it was her. Fuck. And I mean, there's also something to be said for Grisha's old wife devouring his new one. It's like, okay,
It's
all right. You bring unhappiness to everyone. But yeah, but Grisha actually gets saved. He gets saved from being turned into a normal mindless titan by the security force, because there is actually an incognito resistance force guy in the security forces of Marley who helps him out, and he is the one who had the power of the Attack Titan.
Mhm.
Hey!
Did you realize the name of the series is a mistranslation?
Yes, after all this time, we have confirmation that, which we were guessing, of course, because, if you know your Japanese, at least to a bit to a point, you know that they did something wrong here. They mistranslated something here. So yeah, it turns out the show was actually supposed to be called, or should have been called, Attack Titan, because that's the name of Eren's Titan form, and that's what Shingeki no Kyojin means. So yeah, there we go. It's not Attack on Titan. It should be called Attack Titan. Yeah, so that's what we learned. That's the power of the guy from the Resistance, and he decides to transfer his power to Grisha because he says, I don't know what he says to him really. He says, get alive inside the city, and I don't know if he urges him to find out what actually happened with the king and everything, or if Grisha decides that for himself. But he sends him with the Attack Titan powers to Paradise Island and to the city, to the Walls of Moria, whatever, where the rest of the story takes place. And he finds a second wife. He becomes a doctor there and has Eren and everything. And yeah, and then all the rest of the story we have known up to this point develops. Grisha wanted for the Rice family to reveal the whole truth to the people so they can push back against Marley, I think. That's what his reasoning was. And the king wouldn't have it because he was pacifist. He was like, no, we are safe here on this island up to a certain point, which turned out not really to be true, but, that was the king's decision, and Grisha was going against that. And that's how all of this shit happens. All of the shit up to this point in season 3. And yeah, that's basically where we are at. That's the truth revealed to our main characters. And now we have a small time jump at this point. Like, the characters look a lot older, or a bit older, when we last see them in this season. And they're on their way to the shores of Paradise Island. And they actually get to see the ocean for the first time, which is also, again, powerful, super powerful scene where they finally reach this fucking distant goal they have always had in their dreams, like, and then standing with their feet in salt water for the first time. It's a funny scene. It's also a heartwarming scene, and it's got also this very melancholic tone to it, because Eren realizes at this point, because he thought once they reach the sea, once they get outside the wall, they would be free. Their life would become meaningful again. They would be finally free of all the shackles that they had inside the wall. But once they step into that ocean, he realizes there's a whole world waiting for them outside, across the ocean, and that other world only means more conflict and more war.
That scene is like super sobering.
Yeah, super sobering, super harsh, and it's Eren in general. Just this through the course of the series, I didn't always like him. I was like, he was in the beginning, he was like this standard, stereotypical, super shonen-y characters, like who gets the special power, is super loud, and then it's like, I'm gonna kill all of you. Wow, like you're more loud Sasuke guy, and this third season subverts like this standard trope of the special protagonist chosen by destiny, because Eren is not special at all. Last Jedi kind of did that too. That's the Star Wars movie where it's like everyone is special because they are free to make their own decisions, and now they are free. And Eren has to come to that decision during the course of the season. First, I was worried he would be stuck in angry, like yelling / rage vomiting shonen protagonist forever. And then once he found out that he's not the destined savior, I was worried he would be stuck in whiny protagonist mode for the rest of the show. And then Historia pretty much immediately smacks some sense into him. And then once he realizes, okay, I might not be special, but I got something to offer. And I got friends. And that's all that matters, really. Like, I can be useful. I have a goal. My friends still have goals. And that can be my goal as well. And that's all that matters, really. And it doesn't matter that I'm not special, or like I said, every one of us is special. We all got our very own kind of special power, be it brain, be it heart, or be it being able to turn into a giant monster. But each of us has something to offer and something to live for. And him realizing that there's more to life than, just simple revenge or whatever, and being like this one single-minded person was a really powerful scene. That happens, I think, in a conversation. I don't know if it was Armin or was it with John or with Mikasa at the end of part 1 of season 3, right before they fight Rod Rice giant titan form. Yeah, it's just really, really great conversation where he comes to term with all of those facts, with his journey up to this point, and where he becomes like this final form of, or a much better character. It's like, okay, I finally get it. I'm not gonna be a fucking reckless, single-minded piece of shit anymore. I'm gonna do what's necessary, and I'm gonna help my friends and everything. And it's a great moment. It's just a great character moment. Again. At the beginning of Attack on Titan, I thought this was just going to be this big, dumb action show. But there's so much good character development in this. Such well-written characters. I think Eren is one. Krista / Historia is one. Armin is one. Erwin is one. Levi, up to a point, is one. I think the weak link in all of this is Mikasa. When it comes to our trio of main characters, she is at the same time the muscle and motherish protector of her two best friends.
Yeah.
And also the love interest for Eren. And that's kind of it. Like, she doesn't have any real drive or agency beyond that. And it's nothing wrong with those things being a drive. It's just a thing that, hey, that's your typical anime female character again. Kind of the mom. At least she's not the damsel in distress. That's Eren for most of the series, if there is one. But, she's the ass kicker. But, aside from that, there is not that much to her character. And that's a bit of a downer. She's not a bad character per se. It's just there's not that much in terms of character development happening to her, because she is kind of the same character throughout the whole show.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that'll change. But
yeah, maybe.
Not going to hold out too much hope.
Yeah, she has not shown any real agency outside of, I'm going to protect Armin and Eren, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's noble, and that's good, and it's a good character motivation and everything. But, it's not a lot to work with. And I think that shows in certain parts of the show. I still like her, though, of course.
Yeah.
She's great. She's the best ass kicker after Levi in this show. She got amazing action scenes in this season as well, like she did in the other seasons. So, yeah, that's what happens. Eren is sobered up, especially at the very end of this of the season. And now the next step is encountering Marley, like probably getting over there some way. I don't know how they plan to, because I don't think they have boats, but, they probably know how to make boats. So they're going to get over there some way. And yeah, what's going to happen then? Are they going to try to broker a peace? Are they going to try to fucking destroy Marley? There are some things being teased in certain parts of the show. There's all, the power of the coordinate is weird, because it seems to link all the Titans through all generations who have inhibited its power. That means past and future, because when the guy from the Resistance, shortly before he gives Grisha his Titan power, he mentions something. He mentions, I think, Armin and Mikasa.
Yeah, oh man, almost forgot about that.
Which is like, he can't know these characters. So he remembers something that yet someone with the power of the Titan has to experience.
And
And
then
there's
and
yeah.
then there was a scene at the very beginning of the series that foreshadowed that super hard that no one thought about at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, this show's fucking nuts.
Yeah, a lot of seeds planted early on for a lot of developments. And so you get maybe some hints where this might be going, but we can't really be sure at this point.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard from one of our friends who is reading the manga, after this part, the show turns into something completely different in terms of structure, apparently, from what it has been up to this point. That can mean anything. We haven't asked him to elaborate on that because we don't want to get spoiled.
Mm.
Um, he didn't say it gets worse. I have heard from some sources or some people that they didn't like where the story was going after this point, but he didn't say so. He says it doesn't become bad; it becomes different, and whether you like that different is up to you. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting enough. That's a good tease. I'm willing to find out. Holy shit, I'm all in. But I'm interested to find out what that actually means. Like, how can this story change from this moment on? What can it become? What is it gonna become? And yeah, that's super interesting. Like, I mean, we get some open threads. Not as much as we had at the beginning of season 3. Most of those loose threads got wrapped up. But Zeke is still alive, Reiner is still alive, so we got at least some enemies to kill. And I mean, the whole country of Marley has apparently wants to at least get the power of the Titans on their hands, and now the person who has that power is in the know about everything. So what's gonna happen next? Is this just gonna be a giant war story? Is this gonna be turned into more of a political thing where this is about diplomacy and everything? I don't know. I have no idea, but I'm really, really excited to find out.
Mm.
And I hope it will look good. Because like you already said, it has been alluded to that Studio Wit might not do the 4th season. Which, considering what we've heard about the story changing and that maybe not becoming not being as much of an action-heavy show anymore, this might actually not be a bad point to step away from this if they actually want to do that. But that has not been confirmed yet. It has not been confirmed that they actually are off this project. Maybe some stuff got mistranslated in that one thing interview where that got mentioned. Someone said they were done with Titan. That could have meant they were done with that season. That could have meant they were done with the whole series in general. Mm-hmm. It's not quite clear at this point. So we'll see what happens. The 4th season has already been confirmed. 4th and final season. It's going to be the last one. Probably 26 episodes or something.
I mean, it's got to be, considering up to this point, I was looking at chapter numbers. There's like at least 30 more chapters left. I don't know when it's going to end, but the anime as it currently stands ended around like chapter 90. And, we're at like 120 something.
Already confirmed for 2020 fall season, so this time next year, which is, considering how long we've waited for Attack on Titan to finish up, it's not a long. Well, we can deal with 1 year.
I just say, take your time so long as it looks good. Kind of like what Isayama said, when they were going into making the anime, he wanted there to be enough time in between so they didn't have to put in like filler or anything. He just wanted to be the pure story. And if that's what they're, still striving to do, good. I hope that's what they continue to do.
And it's not like, hey, if this get taken over by other studio, it will like look like ass. Depending on what studio it will be picked up by, that might very well be the case.
I hope
But maybe not. Also, it's not like the production of Attack on Titan has been perfect. Like, there's still some parts that look a bit wonky in this show. It mostly looks fantastic, but they switched to CG Titan for the Colossal Titan starting from season 2, and that in some parts look good, in some parts look really wonky. So
I mean, it's I feel like there's worse uses of CG in anime than that.
Definitely. Like, it's a small hiccup, and it's one of, only for me maybe, where some parts where it's like, okay, if this was 2D animation, that would have had more impact and didn't look so weirdly weightless. In the long run, in regards to the overall impression of the show and the production values, that doesn't matter at all. It's just a fantastic looking show with amazing action scenes. And if you look at the original manga art, it looks a lot better than that. Isayama is not that
Artistically inclined, shall we say?
well, yeah, he can draw a lot better than me, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely, without a doubt, both of us. But I've seen better looking manga in recent years, so I'm glad they actually improved on the art for the anime. And I can imagine, I can think of a lot of studios who can do that, could do that as well. So maybe we don't need Studio Wit, and they are right now busy, at least right now, busy with Vinland Saga, which also looks amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they're gonna take turns. Maybe after they're done with Vinland Saga, they're gonna switch to Titan again, or maybe they'll do another season of Vinland Saga and then Titan again. I don't know how this pans out, or maybe they won't do it at all. We'll see.
But as we have said before, production schedules are weird.
Yes, very weird. There are a few things I still wanted to address, especially in regards to the coming final season. There was an article released on Polygon during the course of this season, especially when it came to later parts. It also dives into later manga material. That's why I haven't read it yet. But it was called "The Fascist Subtext of Attack on Titan Can't Go Overlooked." So what this, at least in regards to what we've seen up to this point, like I said, this also goes into manga spoilers. That's why I haven't checked it out. At least that's what a friend of us told us. What this alludes to is to certain visual language and certain themes in the story that are present here already in the anime series as well. That might, depending on how you look at it, might leave a kind of bad impression on where this story might be going, is already maybe going. And I wanted to address that. And one of the things, some of the obvious things that, one of the obvious things I already mentioned was, the Holocaust imagery that Isayama already evoked with the, with the armbands of the aliens in Marley and everything, and the segregated parts of town, and look like concentration camps and stuff like that. All of that is in there, but Isayama is just using that imagery as shorthand for oppressed people. Like you see Grisha and his sister in the situation they're in their youth, and you immediately, they don't need to tell you anything else about this. You immediately know they're oppressed people. They're treated like garbage by the Marley government, because that's what that imagery evokes, and that's the only, maybe not the only reason, but that's the main reason why it's in there at that point. That's what I believe anyway. So I wasn't bothered by it, like, not really, and it's not like, hey, this is something happening rightfully or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, then you get stuff like, depending on how you look at it, Marley could be an analog for post-war forces occupying Japan, and Japan mourning that the history written by the victors of the war turns the Japanese into the bad guys. And that might seem far-fetched, like on the surface, but if you consider how, let's say, loosely Japan handles working through their World War II history, especially when compared to how we do it in Germany. Like, we got, I think I mentioned it before someplace, we really try to instill in children that something bad happened in this country, in textbooks, in TV every time. There are a lot of documentaries on TV every day, or not every day, but you don't have to like surf the channels a lot of main broadcast TV to find a documentary about World War II that is condemning the Nazi regime and everything, and what we did in that time period. And kids get filled into that and taught that very, very early on, not very early on in school, but pretty early on. And that history, that memory that we did an unforgivable thing in the past in our history is kept alive here very well. That doesn't stop stupid people from denying it all and being like, no, fuck it, the Holocaust is in line and everything, because they're fucking Nazi idiots in every country these days. And of course in Germany too. Those people still exist, but at least by the country itself, by the government, whatever, by the education department, that history is kept alive and is being discussed and is being held up as a warning and as a living memory. That's like, we got a bunch of monuments in several German towns that reminds of the Holocaust victims and everything, and of what happened in World War II. There are a bunch of those. And Japan seems to be not so intent on remembering the shame and, all the shit that they did in World War II, all the bad things that happened to them.
I mean, I honestly think it depends on who you ask, because there are some people who are a lot worse about it than others.
Exactly. Especially if you look at certain anime, a lot of the stuff that happened, that was done in that time, especially when it comes to military things, is still used in kind of a fetishy way.
Yeah.
You got the famous Japanese battleships from that era that are still used as glorious things in certain anime. Like, if I'm not mistaken, the Yamato, for example, is one of them.
Yes.
So, especially when it comes to these military things, Japan, or at least some creators in anime as well, like to evoke positive things with certain names from an era that had nothing positive, that had that country not do anything positive.
Yeah, there's this one game, Kantai Collection, that I'm sure most people are familiar with. And then there's this other game called Azure Lane, which I think was made by more of like a Chinese team. And the creator and director of Kantai Collection at one point in time kind of looked down on Azure Lane saying, oh, it's just, a silly, dumb, idle game. Which to I say, great, okay. But his follow-up to that was, you can't, unless you're playing Kantai Collection, you can't feel the sorrow of the Imperial Japanese Navy. And it's just like, dude!
Right? Of course, I'm super generalizing here, and I'm sorry if I'm stepping on any Japanese toes here of people who, don't absolutely feel this way. And I'm pretty sure, I hope the majority of that country and of the creative forces behind anime think the same way of remembering the things they did. But if you look at certain media from Japan and what some certain people seem to have to say in anime, whatever, you get the feeling that they would rather like to forget about that stuff and be proud of what they achieved than to be reminded of that all the time. Then keep that memory of those events alive in a truthful way. And those are things that shine through here in Attack on Titan as well. There's all this talk about, the lies of history, keep covering things up. But that is at one time portrayed as a bad thing, at one time portrayed as a good thing, changing history. But like I said, if you interpret it in a certain way, Male could be considered these occupying forces that say, no, these characters were the bad guys, and that's the real history now. And if you make that jump and say, okay, that might be an interpretation of something that happened in World War II or something like that, and you wanna read into that, you can do that. I'm not saying that's what Isayama is trying to say, not at all. It's just like, I can understand why people look at this story and look at certain parts of this and it's like, wait, okay, this feels kind of weird, kind of icky. This feels like of trying to bring like revisionist history thing and stuff like in here. And then, of course, like I mentioned before, there's all this fetishizing military imagery in here as well. Like, in the beginning of Attack on Titan, it's like, hey, military is this great thing, you have to sacrifice yourself, and it's all there is to it, to this world, and blah, and it's like, gets the kick-ass moments, and dedicate your heart, right? That's one of the OPs, Shinso Sasageo, and that's Erwin's, like, catchphrase, or whatever, the army's catchphrase. And, of course, the show, if you look only at that also looks kind of bad, but then that also gets kind of walked back by it, like, by Floke, for example, by everything that happens in the third season, people mentioning that it's shitty that like people got lied to, soldiers got lied to and got sent into their death. And that's probably most definitely something that happened in Japan in World War II, because it happened in Germany as well. Like a lot of the kid soldiers that were in the Hitlerjugend, whatever, that got sent into war as cannon fodder, they didn't know what all of this were about, right? They were just like, you have to do this. This is for your country, right? This is the wrong thing to do. Your Führer will thank you for it, even though he already offed himself at that point, while they were fighting holdout battles in in certain German streets and just got slaughtered by the forces. This is the stuff that Attack on Titan also addresses, where it's like, after throwing all these fetish military imagery in our faces, it's like, no, actually, this is bad. This is shitty, and the military is a bunch of assholes who lie to their soldiers and abuse people and use them as cannon fodder, use them as tools of war, don't treat them as people. So I always see, like, in this series, every time the series does something where I'm like starting to worry, it's like, okay, wait, I don't really like where this is going. It then puts up a counterpoint to that. That's why I would still disagree with that article, at least just from the headline. And why I'm really interested to see where the last season is gonna go, the final arc, because that is where this comes all to a close, and where maybe Isayama will make a definite statement on all of this. You know, we also got thing. I mentioned that earlier with history and how the way that is taught to the children and keeping memory alive. And there's this scene in the flashback of Grisha where Grisha's father preaches the lies of the Mali government to Grisha day after day, and it makes him sick and it drives him to the resistance force. But again, Grisha's father does this to keep his family safe, but he's also imposing his will on Grisha, which ultimately leads to what it leads to. But then, you know, you would see like, oh, okay, that's the old generation imposing their will on the young, and, you know, that's shitty and it's not the right thing to do. The problem is, Grisha does the same thing with Zeke. Every day preaching the true history of the aliens to Zeke and imposing his will on his son as well, which ultimately is forcing Zeke into the hands of the enemy. And again, you get this one point and you get this counterpoint. And it feels like right now, Isayama, in a lot of themes, a lot of things, is like straddling the line and hasn't made a definitive statement on any of all of these subtextual themes yet. All of the stuff that he brings up. All of the stuff that lies beneath the surface that is pretty interesting here. And that might have some people worried. And, you know, like the person, Tom Spielman, who wrote that Polygon article. Like I said, the show always shows us something potentially worrying in terms of what it's trying to say, and then immediately is going the other way and saying, no, this is also wrong. And Isayama has not made a definitive statement on almost any of these things, on all the underlying themes and topics brought up in the series. And the final season will show if you make a strong statement against war, against blind patriotism, against nationalism, against imposing your will on your kids, imposing the will on your kids or the next generation in general, against fascism, or if this will turn into a total nationalist, imperialist, fascist, military fetish shit show after all. Because that, sure, judging just from how the show has treated certain things and certain characters and certain story developments, that might happen too. Judging by our friend who has read the manga, he says that doesn't happen. The guy who wrote the article just didn't understand it. I'm willing to believe that. I'm just saying it could go either way. Or maybe Isayama will in the end be wishy-washy about it and not take a definitive stand either way. Right now, all these three versions are absolutely possible, because there are basic seeds sown for all these concepts and themes already, especially in the third season. So we'll see where it goes. Right now, we just don't know. I hope for the best.
As do I, because, you know, I don't want to walk away from this when all is said and done and be like, wow, no. You know?
Yeah. It's interesting. It's super interesting. I didn't expect the show to go into so much interesting stuff at the beginning. On so many different levels. And I hope it turns out good. We'll see. I don't know yet. Like I said, it could go either way. There's so many different points brought up in the show on both parts of the fence that it could really go either way. Or it doesn't go anywhere at all, and it's just bringing these things up because they're interesting. That could be the case too. We'll see if any of the characters makes a definite statement, or if it's just a meditation on the horrors of war in general, which it could very well be. Like, just saying, hey, war sucks, like Gundam does all the time. All sides kind of suck. This whole situation is bad, and maybe that's that. That would be fine too, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, as far as we can tell, or as far as I was able to take away up to this point, it was what they were trying to say was, hey, maybe learn from the bad shit that you've done in the past, because, you know, we directly see that with Grisha and Zeke, because it's a direct parallel to Grisha and his own father. And, you know, he didn't learn from his past, so obviously, you know, that's got to come into play.
Yes, and that's speaking against my argument earlier that I was like, yeah, maybe some of the creators maybe don't like to be reminded of the history so much, at least from a certain perspective. They bring up history, like there's a lot of media in Japan that addresses events in World War II. Don't get me wrong, there is a bunch of it, but it's always written from a very specific perspective, which is like showing the suffering of the people in Japan during that period. It's rarely showing you like the upper echelon of the military and everything, the people in power doing shitty things and causing all of this shit. There was a movie I watched recently in this anime movie I watched recently in this corner of the new of the world that kind of addresses some of the stuff, or at least there are a few lines in there where people are like, yeah, you people at the top decide all this shit for us and pull us into this war, and we don't want anything have to do with this, which was finally a clear, you know, was a clear statement on this. But I rarely seen like an anime movie like really condemning like the acts of the Japanese government of that time so clearly. That's maybe I haven't done the necessary watching for this. Like maybe there are other movies and anime series that actually address that and more discuss this more openly. But it always feels like if this is brought up, it's either brought World War II is brought up, and the time that's brought up is brought up to show the suffering of the people in general through the during the war, the normal people, and you know, showing what the bombs did to them, the starving, the suffering, whatever. There are a bunch of movies that address that stuff, or it's in a fetishy kind of way where it's like, hey, remember this from World War II, whatever, and remember the strong Nazi Germans who were our allies once, like. Well, the whole fucking show that in another season, Dies Era or something, that I immediately dropped, where that just like get these Nazi soldiers that are depicted as these super badasses, and I mean JoJo's is guilty of that too. Like Stroheim is a Nazi, clear-cut Nazi in battle tendency, and he's still portrayed as a good guy, right? What kind of good?
He's a fucking caricature, though. He's super
yeah,
parody.
That's true. Yeah. But he's still on the side of the good guys in this story, kinda. And, you know, it's... Maybe I'm seeing that too one-sided because, you know, I'm from Germany and I'm like, yeah, no, all of this shit was bad. And since Japan was our ally and was complicit in all of this bullshit, I am very critical of when that stuff that happened is not addressed properly in certain media and is not being discussed in a way that clearly puts the blame on the people who were responsible at that time. I haven't seen that many series where that happens. So that's why I'm a bit worried. I'm worried that maybe Attack on Titan might go in that direction as well. But that might also not happen at all. Like I said, there are enough indicators in the series that give me an idea that this might go into a completely different direction. It's like, hey, no, all of this shit is bad, and the people who are deciding all this shit are the bad. Who are responsible to do this out of greed or nationalist tendencies or fascist tendencies, they are the ones, the people who are responsible for this and who are wrong. And all the people who decide to be complicit in this because they don't want to speak up maybe are responsible for this as well. That might all happen. We don't know. It's just an interesting thing to think about at this point because we don't have definitive answers and statements yet. I don't know how you feel about this.
I mean, it's going to be hard to make that call until we cross that bridge. So it's the trouble because, as you know, the two of us who have not touched the manga have no idea. We may have a very rude awakening when the next
Maybe.
season rolls around.
I hope not.
But that remains to be seen, man.
But that's my statement on it at this point. Where it's like I still think the series is going a different way. It's either gonna go for no fuck war, and it's either gonna say, hey, fuck all these people that are responsible for war, whatever, or it's gonna say war is bad for all in all regards, and it's just a shitty thing. And I think that's valid as well. At this point, I don't feel like it's gonna go like the bad route and like glorify military and its actions even more than it did. And I don't think that's gonna happen. And I hope not. I hope it's not going to happen either. But yeah, that's the end of Attack on Titan.
Boy, this
Season
discussion
3.
went places.
Yes. I was dreading this a bit because, this is, like I said, more meat to this story than I expected. And I think this has been a fucking standout series. It is already a classic at this point. It's been running long enough, and it's still delivered consistently great content, story, action, whatever you call it, animation. Character development to make this an anime classic for the ages. I just hope gonna get a good finale to a good finish.
Mm.
And if you want to watch this magnificent season of Attack on Titan, John, where can people watch it? I don't know actually offhand.
At this point, it's more of a where can't you watch it? Because it's on Crunchyroll, Funimation, Hulu, Verve, Netflix. I think it's on, at least the first season is on some service called Tubi TV, which we sort of discovered exists a little while back. But yeah, you can watch it close to anywhere now.
Yeah, and you should do that if you haven't done so yet. If you have not checked out anything of Attack on Titan, why have you listened to this review? Jesus fucking Christ, people. I mean, we gave away all the secrets, but still, I think even if you now know everything and haven't checked out the show yet for some fucking reason, please go and do so. Get up to speed before the final season comes out so you can experience it being amazing or it being a train wreck with all of us. Either way, I think it's worth it, especially for the 3 seasons we already got.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's it for our reviews, but even though this show has been running for a while, because of course I recounted more plot developments than I intended to.
Whoops.
Sorry. Yeah, it happens. But yeah, hey, as with all season finales here on Anime Brain Freeze, there's still one little thing we have to do. Best of the season. All right. Of course, it's time to pick our favorite anime of the season. And we had some pretty strong contenders, I think. John, what is your pick for best anime of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like there were as many strong picks as many picks this season, but there were some, like you said, some strong ones.
Yes.
I feel like probably the 3 top contenders in no particular order are Dororo, maybe the show we just talked about, Attack on Titan, maybe, and of course, JoJo's Weird Journey.
We are completely lined up, John. Those are my top 3 picks as well. So, what is it gonna be, sir?
Shit, man. I guess if I had to pick one out of them, and that's not to devalue the other 2, probably JoJo.
All right.
Just because
you love part 5, right?
I mean,
but 4 is still your favorite.
Now I'm going to go back and forth between this and Attack on Titan, because Attack on Titan also had, it had its, high action moments. It had, the sobering moment, like we said at the very end. I didn't even get to mention one of my favorite parts when they get to the basement. Shit, this key doesn't open the door. Levi steps in. Fuck you, I got this. Bam, just kicks the door open.
Yeah, that was amazing.
That was
We always forget to mention how fucking funny this show can be. Like at the end of the first part of season 3, it's like this. They have this feast right before the Battle of Shiganshina, and there's so many funny moments in that.
yeah.
Like, it's good stuff.
But screw it. Which one are you picking?
Well, let me talk a bit about my contenders. So Dororo, I loved the story and the characters. I loved how modern that classic felt in the end. Lots of substance under all that fancy swordplay. I liked it from an emotional standpoint. I thought it was very, very strong. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5, of course. Cast story battles were excellent as usual. And even though it's probably not my favorite JoJo's thing, it could still have been my favorite thing in the season.
Mm.
But for me, it must be Attack on Titan Season 3. Because after being so worried about hearing that Part 1 of Season 3 would be super weak, turns out it wasn't. And then worrying that all the big reveals and payoffs maybe wouldn't deliver, turns out they did. I'm incredibly happy with what we got. And if this is truly the last season that Studio Wit handled, I can't think of a better send-off for them than what they delivered in this fucking bombshell, showstopper of the season. It was great from beginning to end, in my opinion. I was never bored. In fact, the absolute opposite. I was always on the edge of my seat, even when it was just the talky episodes. I was super intrigued. I was interested to learn more about the secrets in the background, what was happening, what all the plot machinations were. I liked how they developed most of the characters, and I'm super interested to see what the final chapter of the story will look like.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it will be interesting. I hope it will look good. I hope it won't be a Game of Thrones Season 8. Even though I didn't even hate that as much as a lot of other people did, actually.
Really?
But still, it would be nice to see this fantastic series that has done so many things so right until now to get the great, satisfying ending it, in my opinion, very much deserves and has earned at this point.
Mm.
So, Isayama, don't screw it up, please. Whoever animates Season 4, please don't screw it up either. I want Titan to become an absolute all-time classic and not be dragged down by a potentially bad finale.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason why you're still like torn a bit, because you were, hesitant about where the story might go in the finale of this.
Maybe. I mean,
that's in the background in your head. I don't know.
Was it Giguk or Jeff Thu put out a video a few months back talking about how there's not that many like classics now, but I think
it was Giguk.
Yeah, I do agree that Attack on Titan is sort of earning its way into becoming a modern classic.
Yes,
but I still think that there's value in the absolute ridiculous goof fest that is JoJo's as well. So, I mean,
always is.
You're asking me to pick between these two, this one story filled with like suspense and intrigue, and then this other story that's just off the fucking walls all the time. And I feel like they sort of have, I don't know if I'd say equal value, but sort of, they both are very, I guess, representative of what the medium of both what manga and anime can be. Both the good and the bad. So
yeah, sure.
I don't know. I can't pick between the two.
Okay, let's make a compromise then.
Okay.
I mean, I already said I'm gonna pick Titan Season 3, so it's gonna get an award anyway. So if you're okay with that, you can just pick JoJo's. Then both shows get an award and it's fine.
All right.
I mean,
okay, we'll do that.
It's gonna be my name in front of the pick for Titan, and it's gonna be your name in front of the pick for JoJo's, and you have to live with that.
Hey.
No, I mean, man, JoJo's Part 5 was fantastic. It was its strongest cast of characters in terms of character development up to this point in JoJo's, in my opinion, in terms of depth, in terms of where they start, where they end up, and has a riveting plot. So, hey, I will never judge you for choosing this over Titan, even though I like Titan more. So, do you. You have to decide now, though.
You know what, though? My favorite part of JoJo's is Part 4. So
I don't know if that is allowed to factor into that. You have to stay in this season.
I'm trying to weigh that against it.
I know.
Fuck it, Attack
That's
on
why
Titan.
I'm saying it. Don't let me convince you of the Attack on Titan. My word shouldn't matter either. Just like loot your feelings, like listen to your heart and tell me what the thing is that made you in this season that made you the most happy, that you had the most awesome watching moments with, that you came away from the most content and with the most obvious, yeah, that was some good fucking anime.
You know what? Then maybe I will go with Titan because the points of just the character development, and we see like especially Aaron really turned himself around later on. I feel like that probably has a bit more of like an emotional grip than JoJo's did, to be honest.
Well, I can't look into your brain or your heart, Sean, so I don't know if you say that is your emotional resonant thing. Sure. I totally agree with that. I felt the same. I loved JoJo's Part 5, but I loved Titan Season 3 a little bit more.
Okay.
And that's also kind of a cheat because a lot of that also happens in the first part of Season 3, and that was already in fall, so hey, we're playing things loose anyway. But still, I feel even though we have already picked Season 2 as our best of the season in spring 2017, let me remind you of that, I still feel like Attack on Titan Season 3 has earned this reward, this award for best of the season this time around. And yeah, I hope the final season will be a contender for it as well. We'll see next year. Well, no, we'll see if it's going to have like same number of episodes again. We'll probably see 2021, early 2021. How that turned out. All right. And with that, we're heading off into the sunset until all the big fall season premieres have aired. Might be a normal 2-week break or another 3-week one. I don't really know right now because also I will actually pay a visit to my co-host here. And a few other of my friends.
We go see each other in RL.
Yeah, crazy. And we're going to meet up with a few of our other friends in the States. And I'm going to fly over there 2 days after this podcast has been released. And we'll all meet up and check out New York Comic Con.
Yeah.
Which should be a lot of fun. I'd say if you're there and want to say hi, hit us up. But you have no idea what we look like. So whoops. Tough luck, I guess. If you spot a tall German with a blue backpack, maybe try your luck, or a not as tall American with a beard, try your luck as well.
Yeah, there's some gray in my beard, so...
Great indicator. I bet there are not a lot of Americans with beards.
Oh, yeah, no, not at all. Not at all.
Probably no big people with blue backpacks there either, so I don't fucking know.
I mean, we'll both have blue backpacks. Whoops.
Yeah. So there you know. Anyway, we'll be back with the fall sneak peek as soon as possible. So until then, stay frosty. Peace.
See yous.
And that is a wrap on the 81st episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to vrt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and more. Leave us comments and questions on YouTube, follow us on Twitter at AnyBrainFreeze, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in, we hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut!
So long, everybody.
Next time on Anime Brain Freeze!
When the arts are at odds with those who make the laws, perhaps it'll be the song of two girls that unites us all.
Are you a little...
What the fuck was that?
Oh, wow. Holy shit. My tongue went places.